G'day traders, welcome to wrap up of Friday the 20th of July. So here's this candle here which had, we had a bit of a push down. The cash market was fairly sideways and a very rangy day, and we'll get into that, but most of the push down was in the pre-market. But it was one of those days that was quite predictable that we're going to get a bit of a push down, even though we're in some up markets here, clearly. You can see we've hit our head off this significant top here, failed to go higher. If they do go higher, they're looking at going, you know, somewhere that they haven't been for quite a few months, so it's not going to just push through there automatically. They're going to get a bit of a resistance and then look to hold somewhere down here and go higher. But I'll bring up some charts to show you why today was, possibly a down day, and then where they're going to look to hold in the very near future. So this is a 15-minute chart. So this is the day that we just had. Here's the previous day, Thursday. So this is trend line up. Here that goes back quite a way, but that, it's a significant line that the market kept on bouncing higher off and holding up, and eventually we've got underneath it, and then they've come back up here, tested it, pushed down lower again, and then it's pre-market, they've gone sideways, and by the time we're opening this cash market, we're well and truly underneath yesterday's range, and that's going to sort of hold and look to push the market a bit down as they had this little bit of a retracement. So definitely leading up to today, imagine here we are at the opens here, we're looking like we've got some downwards pressure, and there's certainly nothing here saying that also we're going to spike up and get some buyers. There's some real selling formation just through here leading up to the opening of the cash market. Just another chart here. This is the same chart, but just squashed up. Okay, so 15-minute chart as well. All these skinny areas is basically each cash market day. So you can see there's probably 20 days there. Here we are coming down here. Let me show you a line of this one here. I haven't drawn all the way across, but this is a significant support resistance line, and really expect the market to come down and hold here. So looking at then at the 5 minutes, 1 minute charts for some sort of formation and seeing some reversal patterns start to form, but really expect the market to hold around here. You can see it's a market that it keeps on testing and holding the market down or up, and it's probably one of the most significant lines in the market at the current moment, and that's certainly something that's coming down and having a look at. So anyway, keep an eye on it. It doesn't mean the market's just going to stick right there and then get a bounce. What you got to see is that that's a key area. It's very likely to get a bounce there, but of course, once you're looking for an area where it's possibly going to bounce, you need to then go into shorter time frame market and have a look for reversal patterns, and all of a sudden see these patterns that's going to bounce and start pushing higher again. Right, so let's have a look at these charts as far as the day goes. So you can see, just to go over it overall, that's a 1, 2, 3, 4 or so point range. So we've kind of right up until lunchtime stuck within a tight range. We've then pushed down, and then afternoon session stuck within this tight range. So it was really a day where we were stuck inside ranges. At first we started pushing down here. The 1 minute chart will show it better. It looked like we had some. Well, first of all, they tried to push higher. Didn't like that. There wasn't some real strong momentum on the upside. The other markets weren't really keen on it either. Then all of a sudden we come rushing down here. There's some formations on the 1 minute chart around some key prices that looked like it was going to hold and go lower. That didn't work. And we turned back around, started coming to the upside again. This time with a lot of power and momentum, all the other markets going with it. And this looked like where it was ready to go. And again, there's some sort of formations to potentially go higher from. That side's failed. It's come back in the range, and by here is becoming quite obvious. If two areas like that failed up and down, that it wasn't a day that was really trying to trend, and it was certainly going to stick within this channel, and right up until midday. That's exactly what it did. Eventually it's popped down lower here. There's no significant areas really for myself forming in here. I mean, 64 is a fairly key level in the market, so it popped up almost to that, and that's where it's pushed lower from. So that might have been kind of the indication that this downside was starting to come. The fact that it's within this range was making slightly lower lows, and all of a sudden it's popped up and it's failed to go back where it's previously gone the last few times, and held at the significant 64 area in the market. Now it's just a strong support and resistance area, that, and then started pushing down with some momentum. Then this could be the first indication that we're going to go a bit lower. And then again this afternoon, Friday afternoon, always a very tough market trade, and nothing really at all there in a very tight range. So I really would have looked at potentially going lower here, higher here, then really not expecting too much to happen until we got outside this range, and maybe the fact that it held here and got some momentum, we could push lower there. On the 1 minute chart, so here's where we try to go up. You can see they've come back, try to go higher again. There was no power there. The upside didn't look real promising. We've come down. When it come back up here to 62.50, sort of the bottom of the range, expected this where it's kind of tried to push down. It's failed to break the lows there, but this is an area where I really thought it was going to grip and hold and go lower. You can see if you scroll back to the market, 62.50. It's not a significant key market over the longer term, but just in this short term here, you can see it's a respected price level. We kept bouncing off it, underneath it, above it, and then all of a sudden, bouncing above it, and then all of a sudden we got underneath it. It looked expected to hold and push the markets down. Not the case. So we've popped up here. Some real momentum this time on the market's going with it. Again, 64 is a key support resistance area in the market. Expected, even in the shorter term here, you can see the market's hit it a few times. So I thought once it's above it, the downside failed. When you see a great area like that fail, normally the opposite side comes in strong. So expected to hold here and go higher. So two, really quite strong areas where the market should have held and gone higher or gone lower. It just didn't happen. So from that, it's really formed and stayed within this channel and not really want to go anywhere. This is where it popped up and held at that 64 level just before it and started to push lower. I think fading this sort of one here, even though it's kind of all in hindsight, it's a lot of times you expect for this something like this to hold, but the fact it hadn't been previously and it's really staying within the range, then all of a sudden believed it was going to go lower here. The signs were there, but maybe all in hindsight, it's certainly been a little bit more of a difficult one to take, even though it looked, it's worked quite well. And then we pushed a little bit lower, then straight back into a channel where it just bounced pretty perfectly between power points there, and then a very, very slow finish the afternoon where we didn't hit another power point for a couple of hours. So that's a wrap up for Friday. An interesting day. There's certainly predictable parts in it, and overall, what I'd say, these markets most of the time should move according to how you expect, and within the perimeters you create around your trading plan and trading strategies. But there's certainly going to be some days where the market does a few little bizarre things. This is a day where it was there was some areas that were a little bit unpredictable, I suppose. And it was a Friday, so Friday does tend to be the slower day of the week. But that's trading sometimes, and you just got to go with the overall sense of things and the overall direction, which will normally work out for you. So I'll speak to you guys on Monday.